As we begin talking about these issues of diversity, inclusion, equity, other topics come up as well. One of the questions we get on campus from a wide range of students, family members, as well as folks in the community, employers, alums, is why should we even be paying attention to these issues? We hear a lot about the D word, diversity in society, but what is it that I, particularly as a student or for my student, if I'm a parent or family member, why should I want them to pay attention to these issues? And there's lots of reasons we think. One, that's the fact of our society is that we are made up of many different types of diversity. That's one of the things here on campus we really appreciate is that we bring together people from all across the globe, different parts of the countries, different backgrounds, identities, interests, and experiences. And that's one of the things we offer to your student is the chance to both learn about themselves, to share with others and engage in some of those bigger cross-cultural, cross-identity opportunities. It's also very practical. And the slide here we're looking at shows that increasingly in our technologically and transportation connected world, to be able to engage with people who are different than us is an important skill just to be successful generally, but employers are also looking at it. We've got two columns here, NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. So that's campus career centers, as well as many, many major national and international employers, report in annual surveys and have for years that they are increasingly looking for, but have difficulty finding recruits. So that's students who are graduating who can demonstrate strong communication skills, experience working in groups, and experience working across difference. And so for your student, to take advantage of the opportunities we have here on campus and in the Denver area to do that actually puts them at a competitive advantage for internships, for jobs, for graduate school, other kinds of things. A negative example, which we probably don't like sharing, is we had a student a few years ago who was getting ready to graduate, was working with our career center and was going to be interviewing with a major international employer. Our career center let the student know that they always ask about engagement with diversity. That's something this employer really values. Be ready for that question. The student got into the interview, they asked the diversity question, and he began to list the types of ethnic restaurants that he liked to eat at. The interviewer ended the interview at that point, sent him on his way, because obviously they aren't hiring you to eat at restaurants in most jobs. So you've got to be able to do more than say, I love the food, I watch the television shows, to actually engage and show those skills. Similarly, the American Bar Association, which is the professional organization nationally for all the legal professions, attorneys and more, have noted for a number of years, just within their own field, a number of reasons beyond just marketability that understanding one's own and engaging others' diverse experiences is really important. Academics and in workplaces, the research shows that diverse work teams that are made up of diverse individuals and talk about that diversity really do perform better in skills and challenges because you're bringing different perspective ways of looking at it. We have changing demographics, just the interconnectedness of populations across the globe from an idea of democracy involving everyone in our communities is really important to the US way and around the world. Being leaders, not just followers, means that we need to understand ourselves and the people that we're working with. And again, that business case, our supervisors, our colleagues, the people that work for us and the markets we're looking at, to have a better understanding of those differences and others beyond ourselves really makes us better able to engage. So from the range of it's a fun thing to do, to it's a just thing to do, to it's a practical thing to do for graduate school, for employment, for just time and success here on campus, we really do believe strongly and encourage our students to get involved with and engage in the diversity they bring and other people bring. I'm going to let Dr. Kristen Deal from our Office of Diversity and Inclusion say a little bit more about that.
Wonderful. Thanks, Thomas. So Thomas gave you a bit about the why. Much of the rest of the presentation is going to be about the what and the how. So how do we as DU engage diversity? How do we provide students resources? For now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the what. At DU, we use inclusive excellence as our guiding framework. Inclusive excellence comes out of the American Association for Colleges and Universities, and DU has actually been using it as the guiding framework since 2006. So for the past 13 and a half years, we have really crafted the way that we think about diversity alongside multiple other colleges, universities, but also nonprofit and for-profit institutions that use inclusive excellence. IE, as we term it, really tries to focus on a variety of things. So if you're listening on the phone, I'm not going to read the slide word for word, and so I suggest you come back and view the presentation. But things that I think are really important to note. One, IE allows us to conceptualize diversity and inclusion beyond a set of numbers. Often conversations around diversity and inclusion lead folks or us back to this conversation around compositional diversity. How many of X student or how many of X faculty do you have on campus? And really the hope around an inclusive excellence is to take what we do on campus and broaden it across multiple areas. And so inclusive excellence has 4 different frames, and we really do engage in all of them. One of them is access and opportunity, or access and success, learning and development, campus climate and culture, and the third one is around programs and services. And so when we think about diversity and inclusion, we're really looking at a broad understanding or a broad definition of diversity. It includes kind of the big 4 that most people think about, so race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religion, but it also includes ability, disability, gender identity, age, nationality, and other social dimensions. You'll see kind of when we get to the resources we provide, it includes everything from first-generation students to DACA students and beyond. So I think when we're thinking about inclusive excellence, what we would hope for you is to think beyond that numbers perspective and really think about how we think about diversity and inclusion driving the excellence on our campus. One of the ways that we do that here is that we break it up into kind of 3 areas. So there are 3 offices that are mainly tasked with diversity and inclusion at DU. The first one is my office, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly, but we are tasked with how do we engage diversity and inclusion in academic spaces, whether that's classroom spaces or in the academic hubs of the university. Human Resources and Inclusive Communities really works alongside employees across the board, so that's faculty, staff, and administration. Along with that, our compliance offices are located in Human Resources, so that's EO and Title IX. And then the last one is campus life and inclusive excellence, which is where we will spend a majority of our time this evening thinking about what are the resources and the ways that we engage students, both undergrad and graduate, in the life of diversity on campus. So Office of Diversity and Inclusion. This office is actually located in Mary Read. We're in the main administration building in case you ever want to stop by and say hi. And as I mentioned before, we're responsible for addressing inclusive excellence and diversity matters that impact the academic experience for faculty and staff, or faculty and students rather. What this means is that we work really closely with the Office of Teaching and Learning. We work closely with Faculty Senate. We work closely with the variety of faculty affinity groups to think about what does it look like to create inclusive and welcoming classroom environments. This is both from the perspective of the faculty member, but also from the perspective of students, and really is built on that, back to what Thomas said, is that diversity and inclusion in the classroom is beyond just the bodies in the classroom, to the way that we present knowledge, to the way that perspectives are engaged in the classroom from a variety of standpoints, from the ways that our students and our faculty bring previous contextual experiences to better engage the learning moment. And so our office really works closely alongside students and faculty toward engaging those really particular but really important moments in the students, and in particular in your students' intellectual endeavor. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to LA, to Lorianne, to talk about campus life and inclusive excellence.
So my name is Lorianne, and I work with Access and Transitions and also Cultural Center Programming, and going to talk a little bit about some of our Access and Transition programs. And so in this area, we provide support to historically underrepresented student populations in college. And our programs are designed to be cohort-based and give students a chance to get to meet other students, have peer mentors, and we provide them with programming such as career development, financial planning, academic coaching, and leadership development. We also have some staff working on some campus-wide programming for first-generation and college students to help build navigational capital and an understanding how to manage college processes. In all 5 of our programs, we schedule individual meetings with students, coordinate referrals to other departments, and develop community events. And our focus in this area is to provide both the support and the resources that help students be successful in college. I also get the privilege of working with our Culture Center staff. And with our Culture Center, we are focused on providing intersectional programming and support for students on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual identity, and spiritual identity. We also support student affinity and identity groups and work with the campus to provide educational programming. We provide opportunities for our students to develop their multicultural competencies and challenge themselves to explore how they experience the world. Overall, our Culture Center staff encourage our students to become involved and attend cultural events to stretch and learn more.
Hey everyone. This visual here shows just a few of the logos from some of our Joint Council student organizations. We have about 14 or so groups that are identity-based, and they're a part of the larger 90+ groups of registered student organizations that we have here on campus. These groups form communities around identities such as racial identity, faith or belief system, and gender identity. And we work with these students to build community on campus and to promote inclusive excellence from a peer-to-peer perspective. If your DU student is interested in joining any of these groups, you can catch them at the student org fair during orientation. Now I'm going to pass it off. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine, and I'm the racial identity piece of the Cultural Center.
So those were kind of a range of some of the offices sitting here on the table with you all tonight from CLE, Campus Life and Inclusive Excellence, our Student Affairs Division. And on the screen now, and I've just sitting here listening, I've realized we forgot to mention some others, so we're gonna add some bonus for no extra charge tonight. Some other areas where student affinity, and affinity just meaning people with something in common, whether that's interests or identities or experiences, additional support. We have a veteran services office in our area. Damon and his crew work with active duty, veteran, and their families. And that's a relatively new area, but a thriving one here on campus. Cindy Nagai and some staff over in our athletics area do some great work with our student athletes, helping them balance sport and scholastic performance. Lots of extra requirements on them for that, as well as club sports for folks not on the varsity teams. Out of the academic side of the house, internationalization, our International Student and Scholar Services works with incoming or visiting students, both on their visa and legal requirements, as well as success and integration pieces. And that's about 9-ish% of our students each year coming in from outside the United States. Back to Campus Life, the Office of Student Engagement, or OSE, works with student organizations based on common interests, and that's everything from Doug's, the grilling society that provides catering for student events, to Quidditch, which has not yet made it as a club sport, but is an activity club and fun to cut through some evenings here on campus, to honoraries for academic or professional areas as well. Fraternity and sorority life are the Greek letter societies on the social side, so that's Interfraternity Council, Panhellenic, Multicultural Council, and National Panhellenic, for governing boards within that for our multicultural, historically African-American, and traditionally white groups on campus historically. We also have the Collegiate Recovery Community, not listed on the slide, which works and provides some safe and supportive space for our students in alcohol and other drug recovery. Honors, as an academic area, works with students who have tested into and qualified for that. And we even have some topical housing. So after the sun has gone down and everything else is closed up, there's still some programming and events in the hall that wrap around students for that. So you really have to go out of your way to avoid getting engaged in some of these things. We offer lots of range of opportunities for students to connect with others who share identities or experience with them, and to work with them to share some of those activities and experiences with others, which leads us to the next slide, which is my office, Inclusion and Equity Education. And we provide students with information, skills, and opportunity for constructive engagement across difference. While it's really important for all of us to spend time with those who are similar to us, that is comfortable, that is familiar, that can be a place to recharge and reconnect with our roots. College is also about a time of expanding ourselves, exploring our horizons, and those kinds of things. And so our office works with all of the different offices we've just been talking about through dialogue programs. You see the DU Dialogues logo there, getting people to sit down and actually engage with each other constructively for extended periods of time around important issues, sharing from each other rather than lecturing at or debating with each other. We also do trainings and consultations with student orgs, classes, offices on campus around a number of different issues or dynamics for engaging across difference, as well as providing some online resources. You see listed there some one-sheet reference thing, bulletin boards in a bag for the RAs to hang up in the residence halls, as well as event co-sponsorship for working with the different groups. And I think that this is something that people can overlook, and for folks who may, like me, identify as a white man. I was born and raised in Alabama, grew up in the United States, speak English. My only physical challenge is deteriorating eyesight as I get wiser. And so a lot of times people can say, well, if that's me, that diversity really isn't my thing. That's about other people. And I really think from my own experience in working at a number of universities that really we need everybody to engage in that, sharing about themselves, as well as learning about other people, not just in the, I stopped by and got a sopapilla from the Latinx Student Alliance, or I danced some Filipina dances during Asian Heritage Month. It's got to go a little bit deeper than that. And our offices and some others provide opportunities to go beyond that fun and often tasty, but oftentimes superficial engagement to something a little deeper that comes back to those skills that are necessary for full success, employment, and beyond. Some of the other opportunities on campus to keep engaging beyond the time we spend with those who are like us. The Office of Equal Opportunity in Title IX do prevention and response around discrimination and harassment. And a lot of that is actually the prevention piece. Let's think about these issues and how we engage when we think there might be a conflict. International House, more generally, is home to ISSS. We mentioned them earlier, as well as Study Abroad. And they offer a range of events and programs to think and act globally. Even if you're on campus, we've got, again, the international population. We've got Denver beyond the time that students may go abroad. Our Center for Sustainability supports smarter stewardship of physical resources and communities. A lot of people think about that as I recycle or I turn the lights off when I leave the room, but it's also about engaging sustainable communities. What are the people involved in that? And they've got some really great opportunities on campus with stuff and with people, as well as out into the broader community. CECL, a Center for Civic Engagement. I have a longer name, but everybody calls them CECL. It's not a who, it's a where. CECL helps our students engage in the broader Denver community through civic engagement. And so that's not just going out and seeing a show or eating at a restaurant, but actually going into neighborhoods, going into some of the community groups, finding out what the issues that they're facing, helping out with those, that we build relationships, not just transactions in the neighborhood. And then we do want to mention the in progress. So it's got some outdated information. Not everything's fleshed out yet, but it's there and started, is our Central University Diversity Portal, which is du.edu/diversity. So we encourage folks to check that out as well.